It's time to break down the Buffalo Bills wild card round opponent, the challenges they present, and what the Bills need to do to deal with them today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, folks, it's playoff time. Time to get ready for the Bills' wild card matchup. We'll break down the special teams, the Bills' offense against the Denver defense, the Denver offense against the Buffalo defense, Sean Payton, Bo Nix. We'll break it all down right now. So the Bills, they're at home to open the playoffs, hosting the Denver Broncos. The game will be played on Sunday, January 12th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. The game will be broadcasted on CBS. Jim Nantz is on the play-by-play. Tony Romo, the game analyst. Tracy Wolfson and Jay Feely are the sideline reporters. This will be the 42nd all-time meeting between the Bills and Broncos, and the Bills have an all-time record against Denver of 23-17-1. Under Sean McDermott, the Bills are 3-1 against the Broncos. And, of course, the last meeting last year, a very disappointing 24-22 loss to Denver on Monday Night Football. You remember the finish. The Bills were leading 22-21. Denver attempts a field goal as time expires. They miss it. Oops, the Bills have 12 men on the field. Denver gets a second chance. They win the ball game, and the Bills fell to 5-5. I actually, as part of my prep for this podcast, I went back and listened to my game reaction to that and the All-22 review to that game. And boy, a lot has changed for the Buffalo Bills since that football game. It was tough in the moment, but maybe you look at it now and think, man, the Bills learned a lot of lessons early in that season last year, and they've come out of it much improved. The Bills enter this game, obviously, 13-4, the number 2 seed in the AFC. The Broncos are the number 7 seed in the AFC, 10-7 record this season. Their 10 wins have come against the Bucs, the Jets, Saints, Panthers, Falcons. They beat the Raiders twice, Browns, Colts, and then the Week 18 win over the Chiefs backups. Their losses have come to the Seahawks, Steelers, Chargers, Ravens, Chiefs, Chargers, and Bengals. Head coach of the Denver Broncos is Sean Payton, 61 years old. His second season in Denver, so far across 2 seasons, they went 8-9 in year 1, 10-7 in year 2, 17 years overall as a head coach, had 15 years with the New Orleans Saints where he was terrific. They were 152-89. That was the record, 152-89. They won the Super Bowl in 2009, has a playoff record all-time of 9-8. And look, Sean McDermott, number of years in that division going up against Sean Payton. You know, there's a lot of familiarity between those two. Joe Brady spent a couple of years working under Sean Payton. There's a few parallels here in terms of the coaching, and I know there's a lot of mutual respect between all of those people. The quarterback for the Denver Broncos is Bo Nix, 24 years old, 6'2", 217 pounds. He's a rookie. Was a first-round draft pick this year, number 12 overall, out of Oregon. Has started all 17 games, and I think he's had a really good rookie season. He's completed 66% of his passes, 222 passing yards per game, 29 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and a passer rating of 93.3. Let's dive into his metrics. He has an EPA of 0 per dropback. That's 17th in the NFL. Goes deep 12.5% of the time. That's 11th in terms of frequency. On deep throws this year, he's 30 of 71 for 909 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a passer rating of 109.3. 6th best passer rating in the NFL this year on deep throws. Yards after the catch, that's a big part of the equation for Denver offensively. 57% of Nix's passing yards come after the catch. That's 3rd highest in the NFL. He only goes to his first read 61% of the time. That's 29th in the NFL, and that kind of speaks to the type of quarterback he is, which I'll discuss in just a moment. Average time to throw, 2.5 seconds. That's 22nd in the NFL, so not a super fast trigger. Throws a catchable ball on 75% of his throws. That's 14th in the league. Off target on 17% of his throws. That's 19th. A 2.8% turnover-worthy throw percentage. That's 16th in the NFL. Middle of the pack when it comes to drop rate. 4.2% of his throws are dropped. That's 17th. Doesn't face a lot of pressure. This is a very good pass protection team. 25% is the pressure rate on dropbacks. That's 4th lowest in the NFL. They cook up the play action quite a bit. 29% play action rate. That's 8th highest. And they got a lot of screens, 15% screens, 3rd highest in the NFL. So in reflecting on Bo Nix, he's had a heck of a journey. If you remember him, he started off at Auburn, was a very shaky player at Auburn, winds up transferring to Oregon and just got better and better and better, and winds up being a first-round draft pick. He was a 6th quarterback drafted this year, and it looks like a good quarterback class. I mean, you're seeing Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, they're in the playoffs. Michael Penix has looked good in his couple of starts. Drake May, I think we're all pretty impressed there. And then Caleb Williams, who went first, has been the worst of any of them, but obviously he's a very talented player. So a nice infusion of quarterback talent, and Bo Nix is a big part of that. I think he's had a great rookie season. He got better and better throughout the course of the year. I'm impressed with how he's handled the blitz. That's always a big part of quarterbacks when they first come into the NFL. Everybody blitzes them like crazy until they can figure it out, and he's done well to kind of figure that out. He can play off script. He's a very instinctive, creative playmaker. Obviously there's quite a bit of baked-in manufactured throws in this offense, which is a good thing, and they're pretty good with the screen game, and they'll get the ball out of his hands, but he's also a player that's more than comfortable extending plays with his legs. And he's a very instinctive player. Like, he can really move and launch the ball down the field. And you've seen some very impressive off-script moments for Bo Nix as a rookie. He's absolutely a dual-threat quarterback that can run. I think he had over 400 rushing yards this year, 92 rushes. So that's about the frequency of rushing that you see from Josh Allen, maybe a little bit less. But he's had a good rookie season. I think that's kind of the overarching point here. Very experienced player coming out of college. Goes to a great coach in Sean Payton. They got a good quarterbacks coach in Davis Webb, good offensive line that they supported him with, and he's played well. And obviously the defense is really a big part of this Denver team, but Bo Nix deserves a lot of credit. I'm impressed with him as a rookie. I think Denver should probably be very, very excited about their future with him. And he gets his first playoff opportunity to go into Orchard Park and face the Buffalo Bills. And I think he represents a pretty good challenge for Buffalo's defense. So we'll talk about that more on the other side of it. We'll talk about their personnel on offense and, of course, my keys for the Bills' defense against Denver's offense. Folks, be sure to stick with me. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. And the FanDuel app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, same-game parlays, and so much more. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will hit the over on stat projections. I like betting on if a team's going to hit the over on point projections, building parlays. It's thrilling. And not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for you on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos is Joe Lombardi, 53 years old, second season in Denver. He was the Chargers offensive coordinator in 2021 and 2022, was the Lions offensive coordinator back in 2014 and 2015. Yes, he's the grandson of Vince Lombardi. You know who that is. But the thing here with this offense is that Sean Payton is the offensive play caller. So this is a Sean Payton offense. Metrically, they're 10th in scoring this year at 25 points per game, 16th in EPA per play on offense, 17th in EPA per pass, 14th in EPA per rush. They convert third downs 39% of the time. That's 13th. They score a touchdown in the red zone 63% of the time. That is 7th best in the NFL. Let's talk about their personnel a little bit here. Obviously, we've gotten into Bo Nix, the quarterback. His go-to guy is Cortland Sutton at wide receiver. You know, classic X-receiver, size, ball skills down the field, can really win in contested situations, will compete in leverage battles, and, you know, one of those savvy guys that just knows how to adjust and go get the football. And so surely they'll take some deep shots to him. Their slot receiver is Devon Vele, a rookie, a late-round draft pick out of Utah. Big body, 6'5", power forward type slot receiver that's had a good rookie season, has come on for them. Their other receiver is Marvin Mims, and if you remember when Marvin Mims was coming out of Oklahoma, you know I had a crush on this guy. I wanted the Bills to draft him very badly. He's a big play machine, and I wish that Denver got him involved more, because it seems like every time they do, just big plays happen. He's just a weapon, and hopefully they don't unleash him too much in this game, because I think he's their most explosive offensive playmaker. And you've seen that if you've watched Denver at all. You can see those flashes from Marvin Mims, and he's had a very strong finish to the season. And then they have a rookie in Troy Franklin. Was Bo Nix's go-to guy at Oregon. I think he's got an uphill climb in the NFL, given his size, given his lack of physicality and play strength, but certainly a guy that has rapport with Bo Nix and has some success as a vertical receiver in college. I think they're still kind of waiting for that to show up with some consistency in the NFL. So it's Cortland Sutton, their ex-receiver, Vele in the slot, Marvin Mims, the other receiver that they really kind of get the ball to that represents a big play threat. He's 5'11", 180 pounds, runs 4.38. He's dynamic. At tight end, they don't have very many dynamic players here. Adam Troutman was with Sean Payton back with the Saints, finds his way to New Orleans. I think he's a fine backup tight end, but he's a starter for them. Kind of a do-everything player. Has some receiving chops, but they don't give him a ton of opportunities to catch the football. And then Lucas Kroll, kind of a replacement level reserve tight end that will have some opportunities as well. Their running back situation, they allow 3 guys to touch the ball, and none of them have been overly productive individually. I don't think any of them had more than 600 rushing yards this season, but this is the group. So they have Javonte Williams, who had the big-time rookie season. Then he had an ACL tear. He really hasn't been the same since he's come back. Dense build, 225, 230 pounds with a dense build. He's a physical, powerful runner. They actually throw him the ball quite a bit. He's the second most targeted player in this offense. He shares the workload with Audric Estime, a rookie out of Notre Dame, physical back, right? Downhill power runner between the tackles. And then their change of pace guy is Jaleel McLaughlin, 5'7", 187 pounds, really kind of has been a streaky playmaker. He's their most dynamic running back, to kind of go with some grinders in Williams and Estime. McLaughlin's that change of pace slashing style of back. When it comes to the order of weapons in the passing game, Cortland Sutton, 135 targets this year. The next highest is Javonte Williams with 70. Then it's Devon Vele at 55, Troy Franklin 53, Marvin Mims 52. That's their pecking order when it comes to targets in the passing game. This offensive line is strong. Veteran offensive line here. Their left tackle, Garrett Bowles, He's been a stalwart for them for a number of years. Very athletic, really strong pass protecting offensive lineman that has some nasty to him in the run game. Left guard is Ben Powers. They gave him some big money to come over last year from Baltimore. He's a solid starting guard in the NFL. Ed Oliver, I thought, had one of his best games of the season last year against Denver, and in particular against Ben Powers. So we'll see if Ed can build on that performance, but Ben Powers is a solid starting guard. Their center is kind of the new piece of this offensive line. They had Lloyd Cushenberry, who left in free agency to go sign a deal with Tennessee, and Luke Wattenberg, who young player, a later round pick, has developed to become the starter for them. I think he's at least proven to be a solid starting center. Their right guard is Quinn Miners. This is one of the best guards in the league. This guy gets after people, big time run blocker, and he's a good pass protector. He's literally blossomed into a high price guard. If I'm not mistaken, over $20 million a season. He just signed an extension for, and he's their guy up front. When you think about their tone setter, it's Quinn Miners, and he's one of the best in the league. And then their right tackle, handsomely paid veteran, and Mike McGlinchey, was a first-round pick of the 49ers a couple of years ago, or not a couple, really. It's a lot longer than that. I forget sometimes how many years I've been studying the NFL. It didn't just happen. He's played out his rookie deal with San Francisco. He's multiple years into his tenure with the Denver Broncos. He's their right tackle. I think he can be had a little bit in pass protection, but I think when you look at this whole group together, they really perform well and have protected Bo Nix extremely well. I mean, only a 25% pressure rate this year. That's outstanding. And I think that their rushing offense isn't necessarily super explosive, but there's some efficiency to it. And this offensive line's good. I think they've got a plus starter in Miners. They got a plus starter in Bowles, and they have at least sufficient level starters at the rest of the spots with a good offensive scheme. So what are my keys for the Bills on defense against this Denver offense? Number one is this is an important game for tackling. And I know that that's not a revolutionary thing, right? You want to play good defense, you got to tackle. But thinking about this offense and how they're going to attack, they got a heavy screen presence. They're going to want to run the football a little bit. They throw the ball to running backs a ton, third in passing yards per game to running backs this season. Like I mentioned, the heavy screens, yards after catch. You got to take advantage of your opportunities to tackle. And they're going to get their players in space and dare you to come and make tackles. And the Bills defense, I think, has been the best tackling defense yet under Sean McDermott, but it certainly has its moments where that's not the case. And I think they'll stress a guy like Matt Milano, who's at his best has never been a great tackler. Terrell Bernard's had missed tackles this year. So big time tackling game, in my opinion. Number two is you have to have the right pressure plan. The Broncos are a very good pass pro team, and the Bills are not a very good pass rush team. So how are you going to affect this rookie quarterback? I don't think you can just go organic four-man rush and say us versus you and expect to win a lot of one-on-one battles. You have to be timely with your pressure looks. I think you have to sim pressure. I think you have to run stunts in games to free up matchups. But you got to do the right thing here. And the thing about Bo Nix, he will extend plays. He will get out of pressure. He will make you miss in the pocket. And so you can't just sell out. You have to rush him kind of like you do Mahomes. That cage rush really can contain rush and be where you're supposed to be. And you can't get too far up the field because he will climb that pocket and make you pay. So you have to have the right pressure plan. And there's a lot baked into that because he's proven he can beat the blitz. He can extend plays, and you don't have the guys to go one-on-one and just win. So big task ahead here for Bobby Babbage to make sure you have the right stuff here to affect this rookie quarterback because, like every quarterback, his splits, when pressured, come down drastically. How do you get effective pressure on this quarterback? Better have the right answer because this has been your problem in the postseason. Your pass rush has been non-existent. Then number three is I don't think the Bills should be afraid to run man coverage. I think this is the type of matchup where I just don't know that you're worried about their receivers and their tight ends really running away from your coverage. I think you match up pretty well. Your back seven defenders against their weapons, I think you can handle it one-on-one. Now, I don't think that you suddenly become a heavy man coverage team, 25 to 35% of the time. Be choosy with it. Complement it with some pressure looks. I think that's going to be a good way to disrupt. Obviously, the guy that I'm nervous about in man coverage is Marvin Mims. I think you can man up Sutton with Benford or Douglas. I think Taron Johnson can man up Vele. I'm unconcerned about their tight ends against the Bills safeties and linebackers. I think the guy that gives me the most pause is Mims. Should be able to stay in phase with these running backs as well, and they like to throw it to him. And they're a heavy screen team. So I think it's okay to run a little man coverage in this one. So those are my keys. Tackling, the right pressure plan, and sprinkle in man coverage effectively. All right, coming up on the other side of it, this Denver defense, you've heard all about it. It's super good. I'll tell you about it and what the Bills need to do to take advantage of their opportunities in just a moment here. Folks, be sure to stick with me. It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats, like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or you want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. I've been playing for a while now, and I'm having a blast. It's easy to use, and I love how fast the payouts are. Seriously, I've gotten paid in as little as 15 minutes when my picks hit. Plus, they have weekly promos like Taco Tuesday discounts. They add even more value to your lineups. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today. Use code Locked On NFL. That'll get you $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or were paying for twice? That can happen, folks. There's people out there paying for subscriptions twice, paying for subscriptions they don't even use. Rocket Money makes it easy to track that all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money can help you. They have over 5 million users. They've saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So check it out. Cancel those unwanted subscriptions, cancel services, set your goals to automatically set aside money each month for your future. It's incredible. Again, cancel your unwanted subscriptions or reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, let's talk about this defense coordinated by Vance Joseph, 52 years old, second season as Denver's defensive coordinator. He was their head coach in 2017 and 2018. 9 total seasons of experience as either a head coach or a defensive coordinator. And boy, he's having a great year. I mean, this defense, a lot of people would argue it's the best in the NFL. And what's very interesting to me about Vance Joseph, I've studied him for a number of years, and he's gotten a lot of opportunity in the NFL, whether it is as a head coach. This is the third different team that he's been a defensive coordinator for. What's always confused me a little bit about Vance Joseph is the reputation and the opportunities that he's received versus the performance of his defenses. I don't think he's come close to having this type of a defense. When you look at the scoring defenses that he's had to this point, they've ranked 18th, 22nd, 13th, 28th, 12th, 11th, 31st, 27th, and 3rd. So it's nice to see kind of what people are seeing in him to get these opportunities, because his units have not performed that well in the past. But boy, oh boy, is this unit outstanding. This year, like I mentioned, they're third in scoring defense. They give up 18.3 points per game. Number 1 in EPA per play. Number 1 in EPA per pass. Number 3 in EPA per rush. They allow a third down conversion 37% of the time. That's 11th. They're excellent in the red zone, 47% allowing touchdowns, third best in the NFL. They blitz a ton, 36% blitz rate. That's fourth highest. They get a lot of pressure, third in pressure rate at 38%. They get a lot of sacks. Nobody gets more sacks, 8.9% sack rate. That's number one in the NFL, a total of 63 sacks. Looking at their personnel, what's interesting here, obviously Patrick Surtain is a franchise cornerstone player, but there's just a lot of really good players that they've put around him as well. When it comes to their defensive tackles, they're going to run a lot of odd fronts, 3-4 looks. The down lineman will be a combination of these players. So DJ Jones is like their nose tackle. He's been one of my favorite players in the league for a while. He's a very good A-gap defender. Classic big body dude that plays with a lot of energy, owns his space. He's a very good nose tackle. Then Zach Allen is kind of one of their 5 techniques, gave him some big money out of Arizona. He's having a great year. I think he's got the most pressures of any defensive tackle or interior defensive lineman in the NFL. Gap shooter, high motor guy. He's not a guy that's going to, run circles around you, but he is a guy that can really shoot gaps, work half a man, and get into the backfield. They've got Jonathan Cooper, who's a bright young edge rusher, can win with power and speed. John Franklin Myers, who was a great player for the Jets. I guess he fell out of favor there. They gave him away for a ham sandwich. He goes to Denver. He's a really strong piece of this defensive line where he can really defend the run and get after the quarterback. And then Malcolm Roach is a very good rotational player at the nose that can really defend the run. So they got a nice group of down linemen, and they got a nice group of true edge rushers led by Nick Bonito. Really good-looking young player. Burst and bend. This guy is explosive. He's really, really flexible, so he can get by you, and he can really turn. I mean, just really, really loose and flexible athlete. Tons of production this year. Kind of a guy that's not going to win the Defensive Player of the Year, but like when people bring up who are some of the names that deserve part of the conversation, you're going to hear Nick Bonito, rightfully so. He's been a very dynamic playmaker for that defense. He's got some young players with him. Jonah Ellis, young player. D'Andrea Tillman, a UDFA out of Indiana, PA, has come on for them here lately. So they got some nice ancillary pieces, but the dudes that they really rely on up front, Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, Jonathan Cooper, John Franklin Myers. If I'm not mistaken, every one of those players I just mentioned, more than 50 pressures this year. The Bills have one guy that has more than 50 pressures, and that's Greg Rousseau. So they got a deep group of guys and a really fun complementary skill sets. I like how they've got some speed and burst. They've got some length. They got some power rushers. They have some gap shooters. They got a good mix here, and Vance Joseph is surely getting the most out of them. At linebacker, Cody Barton's their primary guy that will play like every snap. Has bounced around a little bit. Rangy guy. I think he's playing his best ball in this kind of pressure style defense where everything you're playing forward, and he can, just kind of really be the cleanup player behind it. They blitz him a good amount as well. They got a player in Justin Sternad, who I loved at Wake Forest, becoming a primary player for them on the second level of this defense. He's the running mate for Cody Barton. Rangy, can really attack downhill and play in space. And then their corners. I mean, Patrick Surtain, arguably the best corner in the NFL. Can really go one-on-one with any receiver in the league. And they play a lot of man coverage because they have him. He's excellent. Riley Moss is his running mate, and Riley Moss is very, very up and down. There are some games where he looks strong. There's some games where it looks like he's going to give up 50 catches, right? So he's kind of a high-variance player. With Surtain on one side, he's got a tough job. This is not easy. We kind of saw this a little bit with Trey White, where you just kind of knew the other guy was going to get a lot of attention and there's going to be variance. And Riley Moss is very much that. He's a good young player at times, but he has some very tough assignments. Then their slot player is really a bright young player as well. Jaquan McMillan out of East Carolina stepped in for them really last year with the biggest opportunities he's had. And he's their slot guy, and he's looking pretty good. He tackles, he's physical, can play the ball, and he's a big part of their equation as well. Safeties, they signed Brandon Jones from Miami and clearly playing the best football of his career with Vance Joseph here in Denver. He was a good player for Miami. He's become an excellent player for Denver. Physical, right? He can really run and trigger downhill and tackle and cover. He's a very complete player. And then P.J. Locke, I don't think he's quite the impactful playmaker that Brandon Jones is, but a strong running mate next to him. So that's their defense. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they have superstars everywhere, but Surtain certainly is. Bonito is becoming that. Zach Allen is really having a career year. And then just really rock-solid dudes in Cooper and Franklin Myers. It's a good group. It's a good group. They have a good scheme, and boy, they really get after the pocket. They can really, really apply a lot of heat on the quarterback. So what are my keys for the Bills' offense against this defense? Number one, pass pro. And look, the Bills are a great pass pro team. Josh Allen, was he sacked 14 times this year? Now, he's tough to get down. He's tough to pressure. And the Bills have really good pass blocking offensive linemen. And I think their protection schemes have been really good, and they can rely on Dawkins and Brown one-on-one in an island. These guys are, this is a very deep group that's created a lot of problems for a lot of good teams. So you got to have the right pass protection plan against this team. And you're going to get man coverage, you're going to get blitzes. I would say if there are defenses stylistically that the Bills went against this year that are similar to Denver, I'd point to Jacksonville, I'd point to Kansas City, and I'd point to Detroit. Those are the teams that I think most similarly resemble the type of defense that Denver runs. I think the good news there is the Bills were very good offensively against all of those teams, but I would argue that maybe this is the best team from a personnel standpoint of any of those teams that are structurally similar. Number two is I think the quick passing game is going to be important here. You certainly want to let Josh Allen be Josh Allen, right? Go off script, make plays, do the things that makes you special, but it's got to be balanced out with a lot of quick game. I think three-step drop, get the ball out, some of the screen stuff. I think Khalil Shakir on, quick separation opportunities. I think you want to take advantage of that. Get your running backs going, get the ball out quick to complement some of the stuff you're with Josh Allen off script and when you're going to take your shots down the field. But also, that slows down their pass rush a little bit. And in studying Denver's defense, you don't find a lot of areas where they're not towards the top of the league metrically. If there was a spot where I noticed that they were like somewhat pedestrian, it was defending throws that come out in under 2.5 seconds. They were kind of middle of the pack when it comes to EPA. And then number three is you got to test this run defense. They're good. It's a good run defense, but it's a streaky run defense. Looking before their game against the Chiefs, I don't put much into that Week 18 game, but in the 3 games prior, 149 rushing yards to the Colts, 117 to the Chargers, 115 to the Bengals. And those aren't great rushing offenses, in particular the Chargers and the Bengals. Last year, the Bills ran for 192 yards against Denver. They're very, very streaky when it comes to run defense. There's times where they can really tighten the screws, and there's some games where they can be had on the ground. And the Bills are excellent. The Bills are like one of the best rushing offenses in the NFL. I think you have to lean into that, get your play action going off of that, and really be, this two-dimensional offense that you are. Your first team in NFL history, 30 rushing touchdowns, 30 passing touchdowns in the same season. I think you have to be two-dimensional and mix in your run and pass effectively against this team. But do not be afraid to test this run defense because it has been streaky, and of late, it's been a little bit on the downside of things. Real quick on special teams, the kicker, Will Lutz, veteran kicker, 30 years old. He's having a great season. 31 of 34 on field goals, 46 of 46 on extra points. Their punter's a good veteran punter in Riley Dixon, 31 years old, 13th in the league this year in EPA per punt. Their return guy, it's that Marvin Mims dude. I don't want anything to do with him. 16 yards per punt return so far in his career on 45 returns, and there's no touchdowns. Just going out there and getting chunks pretty much every time. 27 yards per kick return, 5'11", 182, 4.38 speed. Don't need to see it. Don't need to see it. Need all the touchbacks. And Sam Martin, kick it up high and get some fair catches or kick it out of bounds. I don't need to see this guy ripping off big plays against the Bills and their coverage units. So there you have it. That's Denver. I think this is a good team. I think I have a lot of respect for a lot. Obviously, the defense speaks for itself, but don't sleep on this offense. And what Bo Nix is developing into and, how potent this offense can be, a great coach in Sean Payton. I think this is probably the best team that the Bills have played yet in the opening round of the playoffs. Pretty comfortably, I'd say that. So a good task here for Buffalo. And, the Bills are a tough opponent for Denver as well. Got that Josh Allen guy. And the Bills probably feel like they owe this team something based on how that game went last year. It's a Monday night game. Got embarrassed. Were really, really sloppy. You had drops. You had fumbles. James Cook fumbled on the first play of the game last year against this team. Josh threw a couple of picks. Gabe had a terrible drop. Dalton Kincaid had a bad fumble. You had some situational blunders, obviously. This is one that you could probably rally the troops and say, you owe this team something based on what you left out on the table last year, falling to 5-5. It's the game before the last game that Ken Dorsey was part of the team. They fired him, and the Bills really became a different team from that point forward. But you owe this team something, and hopefully you can end their season on Sunday afternoon. All right, folks, that's it for today. Tomorrow, crossover Thursday, I'm going to speak with Sarah Bettinger of Locked On Broncos. So we'll talk both sides of the equation as we continue to get ready for the wild card matchup between the Bills and Broncos. Don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.